I know you're going to roll your eyes at this and tell me it's too far down the road, but for next year's 4th of July picnic, should I make potato salad like I did this year, or should I make that baked macaroni stuff with the feta cheese and the tomatoes in that I made a few weeks ago and you loved it? I could do either one. It doesn't really matter to me. And what's the deal with your brother lately? He has become such a moody Judy, I don't even want to talk to him. Why are you making a noose? Untie that from the ceiling fan and get off the bed. You're messing up all my pillows. My day every day during lockdown. Now, some good stuff happened during COVID too. Some really good stuff. I became a grandpa for the very first time during COVID. And I love this little boy more than any human being on the planet. And my daughter, I don't know how she pulled this off, but somehow she arranged to be able to get on the Jerry Springer show, and we were able to find out who the father is without spending one dime of our own money. So that was great. I'm kidding. We have no idea who the father is. Something else great that happened is my mother's flip phone finally broke. That is an event 20 years in the making. Yeah, 1 month into COVID, my mom's flip phone broke, and so we bought her her very first iPhone. And if you were to say to me tonight, Jeff, would you rather teach your mother how to text or teach your dog how to wipe his ass? I would probably say, hand me the toilet paper. Let me give that a shot. The texting has been a little bit of a challenge. And my daughters were so excited, you know, that their GABA was finally texting. So they're texting her. One night I get a call from my mom, and she says to me, what is low? I said, what are you talking about, Mom? She said, Jordan sent me a text, and at the end of it, it said low. I said, how do you spell it? She said, L-O-L. I said, Mom, that's not low, that's laugh out loud. I said, that's what the kids do now. Instead of writing everything out, you know, they just use initials like IDK is I don't know, OMGs, oh my gosh. You know, I said, that's how they do it. A few nights later, I get a text from my mother that says IYGTTGSINSK. I'm like, oh God, Mom's had a stroke. I called her up. I said, Mom, what did you just text me? She said, I was doing like the girls do. I said, if you go to the grocery store, I need some ketchup. Well, of course, why didn't I see that? And she loves this iPhone because it has features on it that her flip phone didn't have, like reception. So she called me one night, and I answered because I didn't have anything to do for an hour and a half. And I'm talking to my mom. Well, during the call, my mom mentioned that there had been a couple of break-ins in her neighborhood. And I said, well, Mom, that's a little concerning. She said, I know. She said, that is why I am thinking about getting my carry permit. My mother is 85 years old. Her eyesight is bad, her hearing is worse, and she has the balance of Ron White after midnight. And now she's thinking about getting a pistol. And I said, look, Mom, I said, I am a supporter of the Second Amendment. I said, and you can call me overly cautious. I said, but maybe you shouldn't be packing heat if you're wearing a life alert. Though she could use her pillboxes to sort the bullets in. Yeah. I said, Mom, I said, you might want to think this out. I said, you better hope loading the thing is easier than opening a jar of pickles or you're going to be in trouble. Because she has arthritis, you know, in her fingers. And then I thought, hell, I bet my agent could get her a commercial. You know, my arthritis had gotten so bad that I could barely jack around into the chamber. But thanks to new improved buffering, I can make it rain, dog. You feel me, bruh? I hung up the phone and said to my wife, I said, well, I know what I'm getting Mom for Christmas. I'm going to get her the magnetic holster she can slap on the side of her walker. And I'm getting her husband the bulletproof vest he can wear underneath his cardigan sweater just in case she goes spider monkey during the Wheel of Fortune. And that's where my wife and I are in life right now. Is we got our kids grown, got them out of the house, we had a quick snack, now we're raising our parents. I swear they passed each other in the driveway. And let me tell you something, I thought teenagers were crazy. Teenagers are a piece of cake compared to old people. They're nuts. I was getting my car serviced a while back, and they called to say it was ready. I called my father-in-law. I said, hey, can you give me a ride to the car dealership? On the way to the dealership, he needed to stop for gas. I learned on that little stop that it is possible to wash your entire car with the squeegee from the gas station. And I know this because I sat in the passenger seat and watched him do it. Well, I sat there until the guy at the next pump started videoing it. Then I slid down in the floorboard because I didn't want to get tagged on Instagram. He got back in the car. I said, you do realize the gas station has got a car wash right there? He goes, yeah, well, that's $6. I'm like, so to save $6, you gave away all your dignity and washed your car with a squeegee in the dirtiest water on the planet Earth. I used to have fantasies about going out with a girl as nasty as the squeegee water at the gas station. He is such a trip. Yeah, and he walks around, he's got his pants up to his nipples now. And he just talks about how the world has gone to hell in a hay wagon and it used to be so much better back in the good old days. Of course, when he describes the way he grew up, it's always tough. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, we had no electricity. Me and my brother shared a pair of shoes. We had to walk to school through 5 feet of snow. I'm like, when did it snow 5 feet in New Orleans? But I kind of get what he means about the good old days. Because, think about it, as you get old, technology has changed your entire life. Morality has changed. Society has changed. And all of a sudden, you find yourself living in a world that doesn't make sense to you. So you kind of long for that world where you felt like you had things figured out. And to them, that's the good old days. But it couldn't have been perfect. I was asking my mom about it. And do you know my mom had an outhouse until she was 14 years old? And I said, well, Mom, what would you do in the wintertime if you had to go to the bathroom and it was late at night? She said, we went in a bucket. That's what they called it, a slop jar or a honey pot. That's what they did. They went to the bathroom in a bucket. And I'm thinking, I know how my wife responds to the aroma of a broccoli casserole that has been in the refrigerator one day too long. I cannot imagine her response to a bucket of turds in the living room. And you know, one of the euphemisms for dying is he kicked the bucket. I bet you that's what that's talking about. Hey, baby, I'm sorry, but I accidentally kicked over that bucket there in the living room. I think if things had been perfect in the good old days, the guy that invented Viagra wouldn't be a billionaire. Because back in the good old days, when God told you you were out of the game, you just walked out in the backyard and started a garden. And the only hoe you were playing with was the one to get the weeds out of the tomatoes. But now, thanks to Viagra, people are playing into their 80s. Let that mental image sink in just a second. Just that pile of flesh, and everything in the pile looks like it needs ironing, you know? I do think it's cool that the nursing homes are now giving the old guys half a tablet a night, you know, just to keep them from falling out of bed. So, kind of a kickstand deal there. And now everybody talks about this stuff. You know, back in the good old days, if a man was trying to shoot pool with a rope, he kept it to himself. But now it's a cottage industry. I heard a radio ad the other day where this guy said, thanks to his ED formulas, he could now help men perform for 30, 60, even 90 minutes. And I'm thinking, 90 minutes? Blah! Oh my gosh, my attention span is not that long. After 20, I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna go make a sandwich. You want anything? I mean, there is a little something to aging gracefully, right? And I miss my youth. I miss my young body. I would not trade my old mind and soul for it, but I do miss my young body. I remember being a little kid and having energy to burn. When was the last time you had excess energy you needed to burn off? But think about it, when you were a kid, you had so much energy, you couldn't watch TV just sitting in a chair. You had to stand on your head or be half on the chair and half off, and the commercial would come on and you'd wrestle with each other until the show came back. Hell, if you walked in my house now and you found me watching the TV with my butt on the sofa and my head on the floor, call 911. Because even if I am still alive, there's no way I'm going to be able to get back into a standing position by myself. But I had a great childhood. You know, I played every sport for the recreation center. My parents didn't make me pick one sport because they thought I was going to play professional whatever. I played every sport. And it was weird back then because if you wanted a trophy, you had to finish in first place. It was nuts. So many great memories. Like I remember as a child going to the doctor, and if you behaved yourself and you didn't cry if you got a shot, you always got to pick out a toy from the treasure chest behind the nurse's station. Anybody remember the treasure chest? Why did that have to stop? Seriously, I wouldn't mind going to the doctor now and him putting on a rubber glove to check my prostate if I knew on the way out I could swing by the treasure chest and get a new spider ring. Yeah. That baby glows in the dark. Turn out the lights. Check that out right there. I remember being a kid laying in the back window of the car riding all the way to Florida. Nowadays, because of child car seat laws, you have to be in the 6th grade before you can see where you're going instead of where you just been. You know? And nowadays, one of the hardest things in our lives is we have to remember passwords. Nobody can remember their password to anything. There's so many of them. You know, when I was growing up back in the good old days, I only had to remember one password. That was the password to get into our secret clubhouse back in the woods. And it was a beauty. What's the password? Boobies. It was all we thought about, so why not make it the password? Every meeting I ever remember having in the clubhouse, that's what it was about. And one of my friends, I think he's in prison now, had a theory that if heaven was a perfect place, once you got past the pearly gates, it would just be a giant field of naked boobies and that they'd let you take your shoes off and run around for a little while.